Hello, everyone. I'm Sarah Noah. I'm glad to be your new host for the community stream. And here today with me, I have Principal Chris Roberts from Bear River High School, a good friend and my boss. I teach at Bear River High School, so I'm really excited to have you here, Chris.
It's good to be here.
Yeah, it's great to have you. So I want to ask you about what you feel about the state of public education, especially in California right now. What are some challenges that we're facing in education?
I think the obvious point is always funding. There's always, we can always use more money in education. I think that, that goes sometimes without saying, but I think teacher retention is also another factor involved there as well. The profession is a difficult profession, firsthand. So for us to retain good teachers, I think is critical, and it's always important to hire new teachers to get the word out that we need good teachers on our campuses.
So what would you see as some changes that would need to be made in the teacher training process? I think a lot of people don't know it's a very long process to become a public education teacher. So are there things that you think that maybe we could change about that process?
How about shorten the process?
There we go.
I think that the process is way too long. Mm-hmm. And I think, if we're talking about teacher retention, I think burnout is one of those things that automatically you think about. And whether that's through the process of getting your teaching credential, or it's through those first few years of teaching, which is always difficult to get your, to get in to the profession, then to get your feet wet and to really get used to doing that every single day. I think that in of itself is sometimes difficult. And I think new teachers specifically have a hard time with that teacher burnout, with that staying with it. And, but I think that could be remedied by a lot of different things. I think one of the remedies is creating a community at the school. I think school culture is so critical in having just those feelings of I'm involved, I'm part of something bigger, and then supporting those new teachers to where they feel like they can then hit the ground and take things on their own. I think that's always important as well. Mm-hmm.
My parents were both teachers. My dad was a college professor at San Jose State. My mom taught kindergarten. And my dad always said, it takes 3 years to really get it. And I feel like from my experience as a teacher, that's about right. I don't know how you feel about that, because I know you were a classroom teacher too.
Yeah, I was a classroom teacher for 12 years. And I remember after years 1 and 2, just saying to myself, oh my gosh, is this what it is to be a teacher? It was very eye-opening for me. I had large classes. I taught Spanish, and it was high school Spanish. And if you've never taught freshmen, that in of itself is always a tall task.
Yes.
But I eventually got to the point where, again, culture was so critical in keeping me around. The support systems that were in place to help me get through those first few years. Had an incredible principal that really mentored me and helped me along. My dad was an educator, 40 plus years for the San Juan School District, and so I had a good example as to how to stay in education, how to stay motivated in education. And I would say those 12 years were incredible. People ask me all the time, do you miss the classroom? And I tell them every single day, being a principal, I love my job. I love what I do. It's an extension of the classroom, in my opinion. But I miss the classroom setting. And I think for new teachers, the one thing to remember is those first few years are going to be difficult. But if you can just kind of play things through and make sure that you stick with it and find somebody that can help you and mentor you, I think is always critical.
So I'd like to ask you too, I know your kids, what would you give our viewers advice about raising teenagers? You have 2 kids in high school right now, 1 coming up. What are some things that parents could be doing to make better teenagers?
Well, and it's interesting, it's the advice I would give parents that would come into my office with a child that they're struggling with. It's the advice that I would give any parent. I think consistency is critical. I think being consistent with expectations is critical. Setting boundaries is important. holding your kids accountable is probably one of the more difficult things for parents right now. I found that the students that struggle the most are the ones that really don't have that accountability piece, where it's the parent that's more inclined to blame others than to put the blame where the blame should be. I think that's difficult sometimes, because you want to be there for your kid. You want your kid to feel like you're supporting them. But I would say that the best support you can give a student or give your child is to hold them accountable.
And I know you do that with our students, which I appreciate also. So we're so glad to have you here, Chris. I love chatting with you about your journey. But we have more people coming and more interviews that are going to be happening today. So please stay tuned for the community stream. We're just really glad to have you with us. And thank you again, Chris, for coming and chatting with me today.
It's been my pleasure. I enjoy talking about education. It's been in my family for such a long time, and it's something very near and dear to my heart, and it's something I hope to continue on for a long, long time.
All right. Thank you very much.